Hi there, and welcome back to Out There, a Paranormal podcast. I'm your ghost host, TJ, and on the first of every month, I come out with new episodes about the paranormal that I find spooky and weird. If you're not sure what the paranormal is, it's anything that cannot be explained with conventional science. For our purposes, that means any event, location, or creature with mysterious happenings is on the table. Make sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at Out There Paranormals to see the posts we make for each episode and give us suggestions for what you'd like to hear. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving this last week. Josh did a fantastic job at covering me last month, and I am super grateful. Because of the hiatus and the work we're doing at Out There to prepare for the next year, I asked my wonderful mother to write this episode, so it may be a little different than what you're used to, but that's okay. Now, as you can all see, this episode is on the shorter side. Lucky for all of you, though, it should be the last of its kind. With me being out of state for a couple weeks, this being the first episode my mom has written, and us hosts preparing for next year, it's just how the episode came out. So I do apologize. We did have a suggestion on our Discord to make longer episodes, and that's exactly what we plan on doing. Who knows? Maybe bigger things are just around the corner. Now, without further ado, today we will be talking about what is said to be one of America's most haunted hotels, where internationally acclaimed horror author Stephen King found his inspiration to write his best-selling novel, The Shining. Let's dive in. In 1903, Freeland Oscar Stanley, an American inventor, entrepreneur, and architect, traveled with his wife to Colorado after his doctor gave him 6 months to live. Stanley had tuberculosis, and his doctor suggested that he might benefit from the fresh, dry air of the Rockies. When he arrived in Colorado, he weighed just 118 pounds and had 1 foot in the grave. The Stanleys visited Colorado every summer, and within 4 years, Stanley was fully recovered and in the best shape of his life. This would inspire him to later return to Estes Park and build the Stanley Hotel. In 1907, construction on the Stanley Hotel began as Freeland was determined to turn Estes Park, Colorado, into a resort town. Stanley, being an architect and inventor, built a hydroelectric plant in the mountains that would supply electricity to the entire hotel. The Stanley Hotel was one of the first hotels to feature a telephone in every room. The Stanley also featured a fleet of specially designed steam-powered vehicles that would take guests from the train station to the hotel. The mountain wagons were specifically designed to cover the rough and often snowy terrain. No luxury was spared. Construction of the main hotel and concert hall was completed in 1909, just 2 years after it began. In its heyday, the Stanley stood as a magnificent structure against the backdrop of the Colorado Rockies. But by the early 1970s, the Stanley Hotel was experiencing a downward spiral. To keep up with the times, the old carriage house was converted into a motel, but was soon closed due to a lack of interest and guests. Other more modern resorts were springing up in the Estes Park area, and the Stanley was gaining a reputation for being haunted, which, at the time, was not a draw for guests. That would all change in 1974, when a young, up-and-coming horror author by the name of Stephen King, looking for an isolated setting for his latest novel, booked a one-night stay at the suggestion of local townspeople. This single-night stay would inspire the novel that would propel Stephen King to international fame. One night in 1974, Stephen King and his wife Tabitha checked into the Stanley Hotel. They found that they were the only guests, as the hotel was closing the next day for the season. A quote from King: "The hotel staff were just getting ready to close for the season, and we found ourselves the only guests in the place, with all those long, empty corridors." Stephen and Tabitha were served dinner in the empty dining room. The only sounds were that of the staff and canned orchestral music. Another quote: "Except for our table, all the chairs were up on the tables. So the music is echoing down the hall, and, it was like God had put me there to hear that and see those things." Later that night, after Tabitha had retired to her room, room 217, King roamed the long, empty corridors, and later that night had a dream that would inspire him to write his best-selling horror classic. A final quote. "I dreamed of my 3-year-old son running through the corridors, looking back over his shoulder, eyes wide, screaming. He was being chased by a fire hose. I woke up with a tremendous jerk, sweating all over, within an inch of falling out of bed. I got up, lit a cigarette, sat in a chair looking out the window at the Rockies, and by the time the cigarette was done, I had the bones of the book firmly set in my mind." That book was The Shining. While the Stanley Hotel has a long and luxurious history, it is interesting to note that very few deaths have actually been reported having taken place at the hotel. When we think of ghosts or spirits haunting a location, it's often because they passed away on the property, or because they held a strong bond with the location. If very few deaths have actually been reported at the Stanley Hotel, how then can the hotel be touted as one of the most haunted hotels in America? Well, let's get into it. June 25th, 1911. After a flood in the valley disabled the hotel's hydroelectric power plant, Freeland Stanley installed gas lanterns in each room. On the night of June 25th, head chambermaid Elizabeth Wilson entered room 217 to light the lantern. Unbeknownst to her, the room had a gas leak. Upon lighting a candle, a massive explosion would blow Elizabeth Wilson through the floor and to the floor 1 story below. The blast was so strong, it sent a bathtub flying several stories into the air. The entire west wing was gone. 10% of the hotel had been destroyed. But miraculously, Wilson survived, and in 1913, after waking up from a nearly 2-year coma, she returned to work at the Stanley Hotel until she left in 1950. While Elizabeth Wilson did not die at the Stanley Hotel, she is said to haunt room 217, the room where the explosion took place, though now it is known as the Elizabeth Suite. Her hauntings are more helpful than sinister. Guests often report that upon waking up, they find their rooms have been tidied up during the night, their clothes neatly folded, and their suitcases organized. One couple reported that their bed was neatly made around them while they slept. A curious note, only married couples seem to have happy hauntings. Unmarried guests in room 217 have reported a cold presence settling into bed with them, usually between the unmarried couple. In 1994, famous actor Jim Carrey stayed in room 217 while he was in town filming Dumb and Dumber. It is said that he only lasted about 3 hours before he reportedly went to the front desk and asked to be moved, but he was told that there were no available rooms. Carrey left the hotel and to this day has never openly spoken about what he experienced in room 217. We can only assume that whatever happened in that room left a marked impression on him. Now, ghostly occurrences are not limited to room 217. The 4th floor of the Stanley Hotel is known to be the most haunted, ranging from the sinister to the downright gentlemanly. The 4th floor of the Stanley Hotel was originally a vast open attic space, but was later converted to a living space for chambermaids, nannies, and their children. Room 418 is reportedly a favorite among the ghost children that haunt the Stanley Hotel. Guests have reported flickering lights, hangers in the closet moving on their own, and covers being pulled off the bed at night. A few years ago, a 4-year-old girl told her mother that a little boy had been tickling her in the night, but quit when she asked him to stop. As we continue around the 4th floor, room 407 is said to be haunted by Lord Dunraven. Dunraven was the original owner of the land where the Stanley Hotel now sits. Dunraven originally purchased 15,000 acres of land to use as a game preserve. He was an avid hunter. Not much liked by the locals, he was reportedly a rude and unfriendly fellow. Dunraven eventually sold the land to Stanley in 1907. It has been reported that Dunraven often lurks in the corners of the room and will turn the lights on and off and will often move objects. It has also been reported that he can be seen peering through windows, watching guests. Down the hall in room 428 resides one of the Stanley Hotel's most gentle ghosts, who is a real lover of the ladies. He's known as the Friendly Cowboy, and some believe him to be Rocky Mountain Jim Nugent. Nugent was an early settler of Estes Park, and spent his time working as a mountain guide. He opposed Lord Dunraven's vision of turning the area into a game preserve, and was vocal in his opposition. Jim Nugent died from a gunshot wound in 1874, and is one of the many ghosts that haunts the Stanley Hotel that did not die there. Rocky Mountain Jim generally only appears to women, and is often seen sitting on the corner of the bed. Many female guests have reported the feeling of being kissed on the forehead while attempting to sleep in the room. But perhaps room 401 is the creepiest room on the 4th floor. While no one knows the identity of the male ghost that haunts the room, what is known about him is that he does not seem to appreciate female guests, with many of them reporting being touched inappropriately by unseen hands. One male guest witnessed his wedding ring levitate off of the bathroom counter, move over to the sink, and fall down the drain. The main hotel is not the only place you'll find encounters with the dearly departed. Nearly every building on the grounds of the Stanley Hotel is reportedly haunted. The ghost of Flora Stanley, the wife of Freeland Stanley, was involved in many of the social and civic aspects of Estes Park. She helped form the Estes Park Women's Club, which was influential in the campaign for the national park. Flora was an avid pianist, and for this Freeland built the Grand Concert Hall, where Flora would often play for guests. She still plays today, long into the night, as some guests have reported seeing the piano's keys move on their own. One might also encounter Paul while visiting the concert hall. Paul was a jack-of-all-trades employee that enforced the 11 p.m. curfew at the hotel. Paul passed away in 2005, and is yet another person that did not die on the hotel premise. However, he still takes his job seriously, often telling guests to get out late at night. He's also been known to nudge guests along when they linger for too long in the concert hall. Although one of the sadder tales from the Stanley Hotel involves the ghost of young Lucy. Years ago, while the Stanley Hotel was still under construction, a young girl named Lucy was found by hotel staff in the basement looking at construction plans. It is unknown if Lucy was a runaway or homeless, but in an act of carelessness, the hotel staff threw Lucy out of the hotel and into the cold. She wandered Estes Park before eventually the cold overtook her. She passed away alone and freezing. Lucy can often be seen in the basement or in the concert hall wearing a bright pink dress. Now, this wouldn't be a paranormal location episode if we didn't mention the guys over at Ghost Adventures. In Season 4, Episode 5 of Ghost Adventures, Zach Bagans and his crew were locked down in the infamously haunted carriage house. The carriage house, once home to the steam-powered mountain wagons Freeland Stanley was famous for inventing, had been converted to a motel in the 1970s. It did not stay open for long, and was soon converted to a storage space, and was once used as a morgue for guests who had passed away, or unfortunate hikers or hunters who had met their demise in the mountains surrounding the hotel. Zach, Nick, and Aaron spent the night in rooms 401, 412, and 428. During the night, their digital recorders caught disembodied voices saying things like, "Somebody's coming," "You're up late," and "Pass the key." Several misty figures were also captured on their cameras as well. Locked inside the carriage house the next night, they experienced unexplained temperature changes, light phenomena, and more misty figures. It is not known who haunts the carriage house, but it is speculated to be a past guest or a wayward hiker. Fans of author Stephen King will be familiar with his novel Pet Sematary. While King's novel is a terrifying tale, the Stanley Hotel's own Pet Sematary is anything but. Guests of the Stanley may hear gentle scratching at their door or find a newspaper that they didn't ask for. This would be Cassie, a friendly golden retriever looking for a warm place to sleep at night, or bringing in the paper as she often did for her master, Freeland Stanley. One might also encounter Comanche, a fluffy white cat that often roams the halls and grounds and is sometimes seen curled up on the piano in the concert hall, enjoying the ghostly music of Flora Stanley. The halls of the Stanley Hotel are certainly filled with guests from all over, whether it's from our plane of existence or the next. The Stanley Hotel is also so unique in its hauntings. It's no wonder it's such a legendary paranormal location. So, what do you think? Are the ghosts of the Stanley Hotel really out there? We are on Instagram at Out There Paranormals, so be sure to follow us and give us all your thoughts on the things we cover and what you'd like to hear next. It would mean a lot to us if you go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. It's a great way for others to find the show and enjoy it, just like you. This episode was written by my mom and hosted by me, TJ, with logo designed by Jason Zykes and Josh and theme music from Purple